girl. It's so confusing sometimes to be a girl. But really, it is confusing. Am I right, fellas? That's right. I'm back, and I'm talking about girlhood. Again, Notes in My Handbag by L. Jones. All I can promise is that I won't write about girlhood or the fig tree analogy. I feel personally attacked. In my defense, I haven't talked about the fig tree analogy. I don't even know what that is. Oh, it's from the bell jar. Oh my, that is some wind. Basically, it's the bit where she stands under a fig tree and she repeatedly gets bopped on the head with figs until she gets knocked unconscious. Me when I spread misinformation online. It's true. Other than being a vessel for spreading misinformation, this is the only YouTube channel where all videos are written and produced by a cow. She couldn't be in the video today because she's gone fig picking. But if you like and subscribe, she might appear in the next video. We are gathered here today to mourn the loss of the true girl's girl. Rest in peace. Yeah, spoiler, the girl's girl dies. I will be exploring the definitions of the girl's girl in this video, and you may have watched my previous video on it. If you haven't, I wouldn't rush to do so. Even though I am serving in that video, the audio sucks and it doesn't go very deep. I want to go deeper because I've got more to say, and I have changed my mind on some things. Spicy, I know. Side note, I've noticed that most of the time people use girl's girl like this, but if we're talking about a girl who's for the girls, plural, would it not be girl's girl? Unless you mean a girl's girl like a girl who is for her fellow girl. But you know what? I like girl's girl better. I think it fits the definitions better. I'm gonna use that instead. So what is a girl's girl, you ask? Well, it depends on who you ask.
Rule number 1, never ever bring a girl down based on her appearance. Rule number 2, always let a girl know if their man is cheating or trying to cheat. Number 3, if you're dating a guy and you find nudes in his phone of someone that he no longer has contact with, like has cut out of their life, like an ex, you delete those nudes because that girl no longer gives that person consent to have those photos.
Embarrassing you in front of a group of guys, not a girl's girl. Tucking in your tag when they notice it's sticking out, girl's girl. Getting a little too close to a guy that you kind of know who has a girlfriend, not a girl's girl. If a girl compliments your outfit and you instantly tell her where you bought it, how much it was, what discount code you used, girl's girl. These weird, insecure, backhanded compliments, not a girl's girl. Going out of their way to make fun of other girls for just being so basic, not a girl's girl. And you don't have to be basic to be a girl's girl. It's just, you just don't have to make fun of other girls for being basic. Telling you if you have food in your teeth, fixing your mascara if it's smudged, letting you know if you bled through your pants, lending you a tampon. Girl's girl.
I'm a girl's girl. Of course I'm gonna tell you when you have something in your teeth. I'm a girl's girl. Of course I want nothing to do with a man that's in a relationship. I'm a girl's girl. You better text me when you get home. I'm a girl's girl. Even if you said no a million times, I'm still gonna invite you out. I'm a girl's girl. If you hate him, we hate him. If you love him, we love him. I'm a girl's girl. Of course I'm not gonna skip through your ads on YouTube and Snapchat. I'm a girl's girl. Of course I'm gonna compliment your strengths and not pinpoint your weaknesses. I'm a girl's girl. Of course I'm gonna listen, not pick and pry. I'm a girl's girl. If you're wearing heels, we're wearing heels. I'm a girl's girl. Of course I'm gonna like all of your pictures and leave a comment.
Do not gatekeep.
Gatekeeping.
I define it as a girl who is for the girls, a girl who doesn't focus on seeking male approval, and is an ally to other girls and women, by virtue of the fact that we live in a world that is suboptimal for women. I'd give the patriarchy a strongly worded Yelp review. Hello, it's Future Tara here. Sound the alarm, we have a linguistic conundrum. The girl's girl. What is it actually? If it had a clear, objective definition, then my job would be much easier and this video wouldn't be anywhere near as long as it is. I could more easily decide whether I like it or not and whether it's feminist or not. But alas, gender lingo is public domain. No one owns it. I've seen many videos critiquing the term, and there's almost always a highly rated comment stating, that isn't what a girl's girl actually is. It's simply looking out for other women. And if it were that simple, I would be vehemently pro girl's girl. This video is not about the philosophy of language. However, how language is defined and evolves is important in this. The girl's girl is a social term, and it is conceptual, which means it is defined ideologically. If you're pro-girls girl, you may provide the short definition that I just provided, or perhaps a longer definition with a list of examples of what a girls girl would and wouldn't do. These definitions can contradict each other. Two people who like the term can vehemently disagree. Now, as for someone who is anti-girls girl, they may define it cynically. That could be for a host of reasons. We can spend all day arguing about who's right and what the true definition of a girls girl is. That's not a true girls girl. Well, that's a no true Scots girl fallacy. But ultimately, it's pointless. There are different definitions and I don't get to decide which is correct. With all that in mind, I'm going to address the criticism later in the video. And you might disagree with the definitions that I provide with those criticisms. So don't say I didn't warn you. I time traveled in order to warn you. As for what the web's consensus is, I scoured the web for precise definitions, and I have to say, a lot of it is just vibes.
If you want to know if somebody is a girl's girl, you just have to ask them this one open-ended question and you will know right away. Just ask them, how do you feel about Taylor Swift? If she says, ew, I hate Taylor Swift, I can't stand Taylor Swift, I think she's so annoying, that is not a girl's girl. Run the other direction. She cannot be trusted. That is a girl who's probably gonna stab you in the back.
I don't know why, but if you do these things, I'm gonna automatically assume that you're a girl's girl. If you're complimenting someone's nails and then you start like grabbing their hands, I'm like, yeah. If you're complimenting jewelry and you start like touching their jewelry, this one's stupid, but if they type in lowercase, only lowercase, unless it's drama, then it's like only uppercase, girls girl.
A girls girl doesn't let jealousy win. A girls girl is a feminist. A girls girl is honest and encouraging.
Somebody smells, you're gonna offer them deodorant.
I'm being a bit glib here, I know. The article I just quoted does have more to say than these cherry-picked platitudes I just listed. That being said, I find it interesting that there's an explicit link made between being a girls girl and being a feminist, while also being a good friend to your girl friends. Not girlfriends, but girl friends. Being a woman is, in my opinion, the best, and it only gets better as we cheer each other on, give each other tough love when we need it, and ultimately prioritize the sacred bond that is female friendship. On the other hand, being a girl's girl doesn't just mean you have a lot of girlfriends and you love hair, makeup, or fashion. Actually, it really has nothing to do with being feminine at all. But then, back to back, B2B, another Charlie XCX reference, back to back to you. At its core, being a girl's girl means being a reliable friend, someone you can count on for honesty and support. Girl's girl, feminism, or ideology places a lot of importance on female friendship. The personal is political, and politics inevitably infiltrates your personal life. If you support women, you'll have lots of women friends, and all love each other and have a jolly old time in the city of ladies where you all hold hands and skip around, but not in a gay way. Two hoes chilling in a hot tub, 5 feet apart because they're not gay. It's that simple, right? Psst. Spoiler. It isn't. And I have to say that the majority of explanations that I found provide definitions by negation, i.e., defining a girl's girl by describing who isn't a girl's girl. A girl's girl would never do these things.
Number one, if somebody is talking bad about your friend and you don't defend her, then yeah, you're not a girl's girl. Also, if you get competitive over male attention with your friends, then yeah, you're not a girl's girl. Also, you're not a girl's girl if you go for your friend's ex. I feel like that shouldn't have to be said, but yeah, exes are off limits, guys. Don't do that. There's so many men in this world. You do not need to go for your friend's ex. You are not a girl's girl if you let another girl walk around with lipstick on her teeth and you don't say anything. If you post a photo where your friend looks bad, then you're not a girl's girl. I've literally seen people post photos and their friend is literally blinking in the photo. Also, speaking of photos, if you're taking pictures of your friend and you keep rolling your eyes and saying like, oh my god, are we done yet? Then yeah, you're not a girl's girl.
Signs that someone is not a girl's girl. Red flags, people. Okay, run. Types of people just aren't gonna be good friends in general, period. Number one is embarrassing you in front of the guys. Backhanded compliments. I've had friends in the past who give me backhanded compliments, like, they're always trying to put you down. They want to suck the life out of you very slowly and backhandedly so they don't seem mean. If she literally calls herself one of the guys.
Here's how to tell if she's not a girl's girl. If she acts different around guys, if she tries to make you look bad in front of guys, if she points out your insecurities,
insecurities if she makes jokes at your expense. If you ask her what she's wearing somewhere and she tells you something totally different, if she greets your boyfriend before she greets you, watch out, because she's probably not a girl's girl.
Granted, a definition by negation can provide more clarity than trying to pin down exactly what a girl's girl is. You know it when you see it.
I was explaining to my boyfriend the other day what a girl's girl is because I used it in a sentence and he was like, what's a girl's girl? The only reason we were even on this topic was because we had just gone out to dinner with this group of people and I was telling my boyfriend that one of the girls there just didn't sit right with me for some reason. And I couldn't even come up with any valid reasons. Literally the only reason I could come up with was just that I could tell she wasn't a girl's girl. But it was just like whenever she was talking or telling a story, she would direct all of her attention to the guys at the table, especially my boyfriend, to be honest. And it seemed like she was trying to ask all the guys questions and be like super interactive with all the guys, but was not directing like any attention toward the girls or like trying to talk to them at all. And then whenever the guys were like telling a story or saying something, she would start like laughing really loud, laughing at jokes that like weren't really that funny, but she was pretty much just pretending that like every girl there like did not exist. I also knew a girl like that in high school where her like entire personality would change as soon as there was a guy in the room. Like it was not the same girl. And then the classic like starts putting other girls down and making fun of her friends in a way that she normally wouldn't if there wasn't a guy there. Like would be competing with us essentially. And as girls, I feel like we all have this like spidey sense where we can tell off the bat if someone's a girl's girl or not. And I live, laugh, love girls people. Like I vibe with them. But when I can tell like off the bat that another girl is not like for the girls, I just can't. I can't like be friends with that type of person because I feel like that's a friend that's just gonna stab you in the back in the future.
But here's a little hint of what I'll get into later. Using a negative definition creates some problems. Not only a lack of clarity, but the use of negative framing, here's what she wouldn't do, focuses on those who aren't girls' girls and their alleged discretions. If a girl's girl fails to tell you that you have a crumb on your chin, she's dead. The conversation becomes less about how to be a girl's girl and instead becomes focused on who fails to be a girl's girl. Your mind is then looking for the red flags more than the definitive traits themselves. So you're more likely to be focused on policing those who fail to be girls' girls than embracing and emulating those who are. Capiche? So I've gathered that in order to achieve successful girls' girldom, one must avoid hating Taylor Swift, avoid gatekeeping, you must share the fruit of knowledge that is where you sourced your $5 tank top that was made by a child in the global south. Statistically, she's probably a girl. Follow your friend to the bathroom. She might look at you with dirty eyes, but trust me, she does want you to listen to her taking a dump. Many have also warned not to be jealous. Now, my pedant is about to show they mean not to be envious. Sorry, I know that wasn't very girl's girl of me. You know, just basic girl decency. I've made some silly jokes, some jibs, some jabs. Despite my sardonic quips, I actually do think there's a place for this kind of advice. Hot take, but being a teenage girl is hard. It's a minefield. Advice is good. So it's all too easy for me to make fun of advice that is aimed at people that haven't lived as much life as myself, and for it not being groundbreaking philosophy. But here's the thing, if it only were discussed by and aimed at tweens and teens, I would take into account that girls' girl ideology, for want of a better word, is an introductory form of feminism, or sisterhood, catered towards young girls navigating their newly found identities during adolescence. Now, cue the comments calling me ageist. But yeah, I'm not saying that teenagers are simple and incapable of grasping complicated ideas, just that a lot of feminist literature is dense.
Absolutely, and it's a rather disconcerting, befuddling, bamboozling question you're asking. To get to the nucleus of the question, we must first ask ourselves, what is the crux, the crucifix, the croutons of this particular piece of postmodern, pre-colonial, post-Renaissance English literature?
A lot of it isn't very accessible. That's part of why I do what I do here. However, the concept of the girl's girl is now discussed in the context of mainstream contemporary feminism, for grown women, pop feminism, digital feminism. Give me a second. So if it is going to be treated like feminism, in whatever form that may be, I am going to critique it as such. With great power comes great responsibility. Isn't that right, Alsatius? I've heard the term girl's girl for years, and it is difficult to pinpoint its exact origins because it's been referenced in media, but its current trend is accredited to You guessed it. TikTok. Yes, breathtaking. On TikTok alone, #GirlsGirl has racked up over 1.2 billion views. It's become an organism in the great ecosystem that is digital feminism. Digital feminism is what it says on the tin. It's activism or engagement with feminism and feminist ideologies on the internet. So with that in mind, bear in mind that digital feminism, by definition, is influenced by internet trends and culture, and vice versa. In the digital epoch that we are existing within, our meanings around who a girl is and what a girl is cannot be separated out from digital culture. They are embedded and constitute each other. Chicken or egg? Which came first? It's the egg. Egg. Anywho, if you've spent more than 5 seconds on TikTok, Instagram, etc., you may have noticed the girlification of internet trends. Girl math, girl dinner, hot girl walk, lazy girl job, you know, girl stuff. I'm just a girl. Here's an important reminder to touch grass. If I do, I'll get a rash. But if I stay here, I'll talk about the internet for 36 minutes straight. Pick your poison. Anywho, I needn't get bogged down in the details because my colleague Shanspeare already has. They explore the question around whether the use of the word girl to refer to a woman is infantilizing, whether it's satire, what it means for feminism, the good stuff. But I would like to answer the question of whether the concept of the girl's girl is actually feminist, or is it yet another example of girlbossery watering down feminism? Stay tuned to find out. So, I've outlined my thesis. Let's get into the nitty-gritty, the sludge, the dirt, the earth, worms and all. The idea behind a girl's girl isn't a new one, but back in my day, it was more commonly referred to as girl code. Women in STEM, anyone? I was an avid watcher of the Nickelodeon show Unfabulous.
Day after day, it's unfabulous, and everyone around me is unbearable.
With our most memeable Nepo baby, Emma Roberts. Oh wait, they don't like it when you call them Nepo babies. Offspring of notable origins? Anywho, there's an episode that explores the concept of girl code. The show was aired on Nickelodeon from 2004 to 2007. It's about tween/teen Addie Singer who likes to sing and play guitar. Every episode starts with the "my life is kind of crazy, how did I get here" trope.
It all started with mother-daughter book club.
Episodes always have a circular plot structure, and I don't mean that as a criticism. The show being formulaic is what makes it so comforting. Addie has two best friends, fashionista Gina Fabiano and eco-activist/basketball player Zach Carter Schwartz. They hang out a lot at a juice bar because that's what the kids do. It's fun, it's cute, it's of its time. In episode 10 of season 1, Gina comes to Addie and shares that she's met someone, but she's nervous to reveal who it is because she worries Addie won't be supportive. Addie then starts to speculate, asking if it's her longtime crush, Jake, to which Gina responds,
"That would be a total violation of girl code. You think I would do that?" Wait, what code? You know, girl code. The set of standards, ethics, and principles that have bonded female kind together since the dawn of time.
Addie makes another guess and asks Gina if she's dating her brother, Ben, to which Gina responds by pointing out the girl code again. The concept of a girl code bemuses Addie. So after school she goes to juice, as one does, and her brother Ben is chatting with his colleague about an infamous guy from his high school, lovingly nicknamed the Pentagon, because he dated 5 women at once. And it's something he and his colleague find admirable for some reason. I wonder if that becomes a plot point. Who knows? Addie then sits down and she's approached by a Shia LaBeouf coded high school boy named Chad. They had their drama with Chad in a previous episode where Chad invited Addie and Gina to a cool high school spot called The Point, but then when they got there he ditched them for a cooler high school girl called Venus.
So Chad, are you named
Yo, Venus, how you doing?
And you know what? I endorse Addie's behaviour in this interaction.
Yeah, I don't mean to be rude or anything, but I'm kind of meeting someone, so if you don't mind.
I'm on her side, but alas, Gina arrives and she reveals that her boyfriend is no less than Chad Fennell. What's with the names on this show? So Addie doesn't take the news well. Gina saw this reaction coming, but she was not prepared for what Addie would say next.
He's a total jerk.
Yep, she calls Chad a jerk. Girl code clearly dictates that you cannot badmouth a guy once he's attained boyfriend status. I can't? Well, not unless I start to first. Don't you know it? Gina then asserts that this is something that is not written but stored away in every girl's mind.
What is this code? Where does it say that? It doesn't say it anywhere. Girl code is a simple code of conduct that is organically filed away in every girl's mind.
It's a social code that all girls just intuitively know. As a result, Addie spirals. She feels defective. Why does she not know the code?
It is? Addie's mind, how may I help you? The girl code file? Certainly. Let me pull that for you. That's strange. There's nothing in here. It has to be around here somewhere.
I also just wanted to highlight how Gina blames Addie's reaction on her being jealous. You know, jealous of Gina having a boyfriend when Addie doesn't. That might be partly true, but I do think Gina's being a bit reductive here. She's envious that Gina has a boyfriend, but she's also jealous because she's worried that she'll, not get to spend as much time with Gina. She doesn't want to be replaced. And to be clear, I'm not always Team Addie. She can actually be a very annoying character. If you're a true fan of the show, you know that. I just think in this episode, Gina's kind of missing the mark. But that's just my opinion. Don't cancel her. She's fabulous. She's Ms. Fabiano. So in a search for girly pop knowledge, Addie confides in her mother, who describes girl code as a system where you put yourself in the other girl's shoes, explaining it in a way that resonates with Addie. And this then prompts Addie to apologize to Gina and say that she will be supportive of her relationship from now on. But then she's thrown a curveball. Remember earlier in the episode in Juice where Ben, her brother, was praising a guy for dating loads of women at once? Yeah, it's Chad Fennell. Just when Addie thought she understood girl code, she's once again baffled and spiraling about how to adhere to this code and be a good friend. Because girl code is the guidebook to female friendship after all. She's in a lose-lose situation. If she tells her the rumour, Gina may be angry about Addie further speaking negatively about Chad after promising she wouldn't do so anymore. But if she doesn't tell her and he cheats on her, Gina would be horrified to find out that Addie knew about the rumour and didn't tell her. Addie's mind goes in crisis, where cognitive Addie, that's what I call the Addie in her brain with the pink and the headset and the gloves. Slay. She searches through mountains of pink paperwork to find a piece of girl code to encode the perfect solution to the conundrum. Thankfully, she has a eureka moment. She uncovers a quintessential piece of girl code. Never let a girl go to the bathroom alone. So yeah, Addie and Gina go to the bathroom and then Addie shares the rumour with Gina, to which Gina responds saying that she knows. She confirms that it's true. He did do that. Before they were dating, he was a philanderer. And Gina is willing to give him a chance. She says that as soon as there's even a whiff of another girl, Chad is history. And, what can you do? Addie's done all she can. It's out of her hands now. Chad does end up dumping Gina in the season finale. Spoiler, sols. Now, I understand why you might think this is all a tangent, but I promise this is relevant. It's a case study. This is part of research. I am academia. And my takeaways are, this episode is pro-girl code. It does highlight the struggle of having unwritten social codes, but ultimately concludes that every girl, even someone as clueless as Addie, has pieces of it stored in their uber pink girl brain. And adhering to girl code is essential to female friendship. It's what makes a girl a good friend to another girl. I do think there's an outlier here though. Girl code is evoked outside of friendship with regards to adultery and being the other woman, i.e. the idea that if you follow girl code or you're a girl's girl, you would never dream of getting with a man in a relationship. And bonus points if you tell her when her boyfriend hits on you, whereas you break girl code / are not a girl's girl by getting with men in relationships. So it's as if we have a loyalty to women as a whole because you would never want to be the reason that another girl's heart is broken. You know, we're better than men. So that is an example of loyalty to a woman that you don't know, and it's nothing to do with friendship. And I do think that is gendered in a way that it isn't for men, like the Ariana SpongeBob debacle. But I get into this in so much detail in my first video, so I'm not going to get into that here because this video is already long enough. Okay, bye. So you could say that being a girl's girl is essentially the same thing, as in following girl code is what makes a girl a girl's girl. Those videos I showed earlier of people explaining what a girl's girl would and wouldn't do, those are, for the most part, unwritten social rules that are seen as intuitive knowledge. It's just something you feel. So, to point out the obvious, this is a flawed system. As you may have gathered from being a human being living on Earth, I assume, morality is subjective. People have never been able to agree on it. And even if you can agree on principles, how to act on them is debatable. In Unfabulous, Gina wants Addie to meet her boyfriend and be friends with them and hang out with them all together. But someone else may interpret girl code totally differently.
By right, you're supposed to hate your bestie's boyfriend because you'll always think she deserves someone better. Number 3, unless it's urgent or you're planning something for your best friend, like a birthday or an engagement, I would never, ever personally text her boyfriend, even if she's told me it's okay.
Do you see the problem here? It isn't fair to condemn someone for violating girl code when girl code is completely up to interpretation. Now, you might say, whoa, chill. It's not that deep. There are just some things you should and shouldn't do. That's common decency. Like, you don't call your friend hideously ugly. You don't shack up with their partner. Sure, but we don't just judge each other based on our biggest violations. Humans judge each other based on every micro interaction, every social cue like facial expression, tone of voice, inferred meaning of words. That's why being autistic in an Linguistics world is an exhausting and oppressive ordeal. Now, back to girl code specifically. What I will say, in fairness to girl code, although some of the rules might appear as silly and unnecessarily specific, they are referring to patterns of behaviors that do turn out to be red flags. Take, for example, your friend wearing your boyfriend's hoodie. At face value, one could say it's simply someone just giving someone else an item of clothing so they can be warm. Helping people is nice. However, in hetero culture, a guy giving a girl his hoodie or jacket is seen as an act of chivalry, often a romantic gesture. Therefore, it is understandable if alarm bells go off in one's head when they see this occur between their boyfriend and their friend. In fact, there was a whole TikTok saga with a hoodie, and you don't need to know about that. Anyways, stating this as a rule might seem oddly specific, but I think we all have specific examples of behaviors and micro interactions that encompass a bigger picture of bad behavior. Now, this can go too far the other way, like when women post about how their boyfriend isn't allowed to be nice to other women. That's just a red flag. Notice how often men are coming up in this discussion? You'd think a phrase that uses the word girl twice would have nothing to do with boys. Well, it sure focuses on them a lot. In fairness, it would be reductive of me to say that all of girl code is about dating and guys. You know, there are mantras like if a girl's skirt is stuck in her pants, tell her. If she's got spinach in her teeth, tell her. That kind of thing. You know, helping a girl out. That being said, it does seem that the majority of girl code is focused on dating and boys and navigating female friendship around those things.
I don't think you actually fancy me. We're supposed to be exclusive. We're supposed to be this fabled half-boyfriend-girlfriend, which now makes me feel like an utter twat. And you're having meaningful snogs with other girls when I'm not here.
I can't promise you that. This won't happen again.
So how can you go from being like, I want a future with you, I do see a future with you, to now saying that you don't want to be with me? He started saying, I've loved every minute I've spent with you. I think you're an amazing girl, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you.
Oh, you can't promise it won't happen again.
Yeah. Right, so then 10 minutes before...
What?
Dreams that were sold, it was a dream. Like, we
he
don't expect
acted like
anyone-
the perfect guy. I've got a bonus item for my fantastic life, and that's you lot.
Girls!
I have found love. And so that, girls.
Cheers
Water.
to that.
3 days later.
I had a chat with Curtis.
I saw.
Okay.
Talk about the weather, or...?
No, definitely not the weather. I do fancy him, and I'm an honest person, and I can't hold back. So I did tell him that I liked him.
But not honest enough to come and tell me first that you were going to do it.
When I came in here, I felt like out of all the girls, you were the only girl that kind of wouldn't let me in.
If I made you feel like that, I'm really sorry. But I would say that we are friends, and I feel like a lot of stuff makes sense to me now, because you've sat with me in bed for 3 days while I've been sobbing. You were one of the most vocal about he does not deserve a second chance. I just feel like now I know what I know, I'm like, when you were telling me, like, just get rid of him, do not give him a second chance, I'm like...
If you honestly think that I've done that to try and swoop in, you're very, very wrong. And I really don't want to see you upset, I really don't. But I just know in my heart, if I was to leave and I didn't say to him, exactly.
That's fine. If that's what you feel you have to do, that's fine. Crack on. I hope it goes really well for you both, and I hope he wants to marry you, and I hope he wants to have kids with you. I thought that was going to be me. It wasn't. If you like him, that's fine. Crack on, that's fine.
The last thing I want to do is rub anything in your face.
I hope it works out well for you. Good luck.
Let's talk briefly. I mean, Amy is all over the front pages of the tabloids today. She has apparently left the island. So who's prepared to talk about what they believe has happened here? Ellen first.
Well, apparently Maura has broken the girl code.
Part of me thought, because Maura is such a girl's girl, I thought she was pulling me over to be like, just so you know, Curtis just tried to crack on with me. I didn't think that Girls' Girl of the Year 2019, Maura Higgins, would be the one who'd done the cracking on with the boy that broke my heart.
I think every season of Love Island has been defined by this idea of girl code. Last season we saw Megan, Barton Hanson and Wes Nelson get together after she told him that she liked him, and he was with a partner at the time called Laura, and Megan was also accused of breaking the girl code by circumventing this. I would say the girl code is a loose collection of tenets that basically are don't talk to your friend's man.
But don't talk, ever.
Don't talk, don't go near him, don't breathe near him. But it's basically don't overstep in a romantic way on another girl's man. That's the main way.
But if they finished, what's the...
If this is the thing. I think what we're getting down to here is the girl code it's a loose collection of policies that is based on kind of fear and is policing heteronormative dating.
Ellen, what do you think?
It's very possessive. It's about saying, I've dated this man, or I like this man, so he is off limits, he's mine.
To me, it seems a bit retro and not really 21st century enough for me.
There's so much grey area in all this. I'm in two minds about this. The social justice, video essayist, progressive, pilled side of my brain versus the it's not that deep side of my brain. So yeah, when I say it's not that deep, not wanting to see your best friend and your ex chowing down each other's tongues in front of you, you are conditioned by the patriarchy to see men as a prize, and that's why you're so upset seeing your friend. No, because often it's not that you don't want your ex to be with someone else, it's that you don't want to have to see them with your friend all the time. That simply, you just want to keep your current social life separate from your romantic past. And I wanted to just point that out before I get into the rest of the analysis. At the root of it, the fundamental idea of girl code, the one where you can't even think of dating your friend's ex or current romantic interests, reinforces the notion that people can have ownership over others. Not only does this remove people's agency to decide who they do and do want to have a relationship with, it's also manipulative and controlling to cut contact between individuals purely because someone feels threatened. You know, outside of Love Island, there is something very strange about the idea that if you have a crush on someone, you kind of call dibs on them. Even if you're completely incompatible and they might be more compatible with someone else, like say, your friend. You know, it can be a way for girls to gang up on each other and ostracize the guilty party. It can stem from envy, jealousy, insecurity, like in Gilmore Girls, where Paris and her gang all gang up on Rory because Paris's crush Tristan asked her out. She didn't even say yes. She didn't even like him. But just that alone was enough to make her public enemy number one. I love Paris, by the way. She was unhinged. And I do think it is interesting how girl code is often used in situations where I just don't think it applies, where people aren't even friends. It's as if it's tied up in some arbitrary social hierarchy. You know, she's entitled to loyalty simply because she's top of the pecking order, but that would not apply the other way round. It's girl law. What hurts us in complex situations like this is often a lack of communication, which should exist in good friendships, but this should have nothing to do with gender loyalty. I agree with the assertion that girl code is needlessly gendered. What happens if you are in a situation where a friend wants to date an ex and both are women? Where does your loyalty lie then? Or what if the friend who you feel has wronged you doesn't identify as a woman at all? Girl code isn't how we should measure friendship. I can agree with that. Perhaps a better phrase would be friend code. I don't know. It doesn't sound as good though, does it? And I will say that there's even situations where I think feminism and sisterhood is weaponized against the victim in the situation. Like, this stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum. Often when a person cuts off a friend for doing something like this, it's because of a long history of inconsiderate behavior. I do think there is a bit of a danger when someone cuts someone off and the response is, oh my god, I can't believe you're cutting off a friend over a guy. I mean, she put a guy over a friend first. It's like the phrase, you know, be the bigger person. I just find it quite, why is it always on the victim to have to like be the bigger person? Ugh. Because it's manipulation, babe. Because here's the thing, while I agree that invoking girl code holds girls to a different standard than boys, there is also the truth that often the reason that girls get with their friend's crush or boyfriend is for male validation. They are placing male validation above their friend's feelings. In this scenario, they are choosing themselves over you. I don't owe anyone anything. Regardless of your take on all this, I'm sure we can all agree that this is a severely straight concept.
You're right to use the term heteronormative, because I'm not. Would it apply in other sorts of relationships?
It can't. I'm bisexual, and if you are dating women, you will date your friends' exes.
Okay, tell us more about that then.
Because it's such a small world.
This is heteroculture, trademark. Non-derogatory. I think some people misunderstand when I use the term straight culture, like they think I hate straight people. I'm talking about caricatures of straightness. You know, like Love Island, gender reveal parties, freaking out when your son plays with dolls. The straight people I know aren't into these things. Though some of them will say their favourite Britney song is Toxic. Wrong answer. It's Stronger. Objective truth. Or they only know Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen when Run Away With Me is right there. And I say this because there is a boy edition. His and hers. And the his is bro code. Much like girl code, bro code is friendship etiquette amongst bros. It was apparently popularised by Barney Stinson on How I Met Your Mother. I didn't watch it. There's also bros before hoes, which is a contemporary phrase that is difficult to find its exact origins. Someone commented about this on my previous video on the Girls Girl as a counterpoint to me saying, you don't really hear about guys being guys. This bro code, at least back when I was surrounded by kind of fratty guys, had a similar don't cheat on other guys' girls, don't put down your boys in front of the girls set of rules as the broad girls' girl code here, though with more of an explicit threat of violence for violation, i.e. if you betray or hurt your friends, you'll be in danger of getting beaten. Also, again, with a deeply sexist disregard of women as anything but objects to be acquired, with cheating and betrayal in love being treated much more as like an act of property theft rather than, well, hurting someone else. Sort of a, this guy is bad and should be shunned, not because what he did was inherently hurtful and cruel, but because he's untrustworthy and will rob you. It's a bad and toxic mentality that lionizes domineering and violent behaviors towards women and frames male friendships as less mutually beneficial relationships and more diplomatic pacts based around not doing the natural thing that guys are inherently going to do otherwise. But it is a thing that should not exist. And someone else pointed out in a comment that with the girls' girl, you are obliged to tell a girl if a guy is cheating on her, whereas often with guys, it's you are obliged to protect the guy when he cheats on his girlfriend and lie for him. I have also seen instances where, you know, people have argued, oh, if you're a girl's girl, you cover her tracks if she's cheated on her boyfriend. It's not objective. People say different things. It seems that both girl code and bro code presupposes that friendship is almost always same gender, homosocial. I'm about to say something very video essayist core, but humor me. I'm gonna read it. They're manifestations of prescriptive gender roles and heteronormativity. I know, but it's true. It's true. But yeah, this culture is very black and white and binary when it comes to gender. I bet the non-binary folks watching this video are having a hoot. You're just here with your popcorn watching the circus. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Although girl code is a precursor to the girl's girl, the distinction seems to be that girl code is more focused on how to be a good friend as a girl, whereas the girl's girl, at least in its current form, is marketed as a practice of sisterhood among all women, friends or foes. Some even sell it as a form of feminism. Let's break through the girl matrix. It's easy for me to be a hater on my commentary YouTuber ivory tower.
Like and subscribe.
I could outright dismiss the girl's girl in haste, but that wouldn't be very nuanced, would it? I've used the phrase. There's a reason it resonates with so many young women and girls.
If there's a WikiHow article on it, it's canon.
We're socialized from a young age to see each other as competition, I would argue. Some disagree. Women are presented as dichotomies. The Madonna whore complex, the tomboy versus the girly girl, the mean girl versus the weird girl, the pick-me girl versus the girl's girl. Other than that Unfabulous episode I referenced earlier, I didn't see the girl's girl be alluded to growing up, that I recall. And for precision's sake, it was referencing girl code. Earlier, I made a case for how that is similar to the girl's girl. Take a shot whenever I say girl, unless you're underage or sober. Or you just don't want to. For me, the distinction is that girl code is more prescriptive. A set of rules for girls to follow with a focus on navigating friendship and in particular its tension around dating. It's microscopic, whereas the girl's girl is an ethos, a state of being. It's how you see other women. It's broader, macro girly. Wow. I like this definition that I found of the girl's girl in a coveted academic journal. They reference a Jordanian show called AlRawabi School for Girls, and they highlight a plotline where these two girls who do not like each other, but one sees the other in trouble with a predatory man, and she intervenes and supports the other girl, whom she detests. It's not so much about liking each other, it's understanding shared experiences of girlhood and womanhood, and unconditionally supporting each other's safety and well-being regardless of how you might get along day to day. I think also it's making sure your actions do not harm or disempower other women generally. It's not blindly supporting someone's shitty actions because they're also a woman. There are women I've distanced myself from, but if they ever reach out to me asking for information about something I have information about, especially if it connects to their safety, I'm going to share it with them. Of course, this goes for anyone and is not exclusive to women, but it is very, very specific to women. To elaborate on that last part, I want to shut down the linguistic criticism of why be a girl's girl when you could just be a people's person? Because gender affects our whole experience of the world. Shrugs. The girl's girl has been critiqued for being infantilizing and simplistic, but as of now I want to push back on that. I mentioned at the beginning how the girl's girl could be helpful for teenage girls, and before I continue, I don't mean that in a patronizing way. I mean it specifically for my past self. A part of me wishes that the girl's girl was popularized during my adolescence, which occurred during the peak of the not like other girls phenomenon. The norms in pop culture back then would not fly in today's internet climate, at least the areas of the internet that I'm habituated with. I grew up in the 2000s where the average teen movie had a weird girl protagonist and then a blonde, feminine, mean girl antagonist. Some of the top chart hits of the time are now called pick-me anthems, like Misery Business by Paramore, Girlfriend by Avril Lavigne, and Don't Ya by the Pussycat Dolls.
Don't you wish your girlfriend was fun like me?
All bangers. The dominant narrative was to see other girls as the enemy, to see getting the guy as the ultimate achievement. All is fair in love and war. Any girl who gets in the way of that is an antagonist in your love story, and you must overcome her womanly wiles, mind you, she's also a child, and conquer her in the quest to win the affections of Pete, who's just some guy. Yeah, and it assumed you were straight. If you're already socially isolated and being ostracized by other girls, and then you see media that demonizes ultra femininity, it reinforces the bias that femininity is synonymous with being mean. And here's the thing, it can be much more insidious than actively distancing yourself from other girls. Even girls who appear to be successful at having other girlfriends can still manifest a distrust of other girls, and those are the girls you see making fun of their friends when boys are around.
The first instance of her changing her behavior to appease this man, not a special man, not a man that she's calling dibs on, just like a guy, like a random dude, like Jake from State Farm, the second I see that happen, I'm out. We'll be around the most average man you've ever seen in your life, and all of a sudden it's like,
Hi, Jason. Do you remember that time that you farted earlier, Emma? You let out such a long fart. Jason, I don't fart.
Posting a photo of them with their friend where her friend's eyes are closed, and she might have an inclination to take the guy's side in a conflict.
Josh did that. Really? I don't believe it. That's so out of his character. No, because he's always such a gentleman. He's like my best friend, okay? Careful what you're saying here. But are you okay? Whatever he did, oh God. Really? Bless you. Are you sure she's not like exaggerating?
And all of this perfectly feeds into the idea that boys will be boys who make mistakes, yet girls are just naturally more mature and therefore should be held to a higher moral standard for their actions. They don't get the same charitability from their fellow girl because they should know better. We don't need to support all women, but we do need to humanize them. And adopting this mindset is a win on both a micro level and a macro level. How you see women as a whole inevitably affects your daily interactions with other women, right? Nowadays, it isn't cool to be an N-log or a pick-me. It's cringe. And that comes with its own problems that I have already addressed in a previous video. So let's put those aside for a moment and humor me. I wonder. And then I started to wonder. I wonder though, if I would have escaped the N-log phase sooner, if the girl's girl was the dominant narrative in teen media, if I heard more about how other girls aren't my competition, but potential allies in dangerous situations, assuming they wouldn't victim blame. Apologies, I know this bit of light is a bit distracting, but you'll live. Now I understand that it isn't as simple as modifying your media intake, but teaching girls as they're growing up that they're supposedly in competition with each other raises women who are actually in competition with one another. It is a fairly common sentiment that women's hatred for each other is innate. We're just more catty. It's in our nature. And this narrative predates 2000s teen movies. On Women, 1851, by German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, declared that the feeling between male strangers or acquaintances was mere indifference. For women, it was actual enmity. Similarly, Unitarian minister and writer William Roosevelt Alger, in The Friendships of Women, 1868, concluded, "I was often struck both by the small number of recorded examples of the sentiment among women and by the commonness of the expressed belief that strong natural obstacles make friendship a comparatively feeble and rare experience with them." That quote is very ironic today, given all the discourse around the male loneliness epidemic. But anywho, I don't have the energy to talk about evolutionary psychology today, so I'll simply ask, are the men all getting along with each other? I have my doubts, given that the majority of violent crime is against men by other men. Despite that, the narrative that women are intrinsically meaner to one another than men are persists. Who does this narrative serve? A preoccupation with girl-on-girl crime not only distracts from the greater problems women face, such as the violence committed against them by men, but to some extent validates the women as lesser attitudes that contribute to such crimes. Cultural critic H.L. Mencken once defined a misogynist as a man who hates women as much as women hate one another, glibly suggesting that all women hate each other gives tacit permission for men to hate women too. The girl's girl is in defiance of this mindset. They're saying, no, I'm not buying into this nonsense anymore. How are we supposed to fix any of the issues that women are facing if we're busy fighting each other? Irony alert. Foreshadowing. Identifying as a girl's girl is also a reaction to the seemingly hopeless world we live in. As women face spiking, debates about abortion rights, and Ozempic, perhaps a community-focused identity like the girl's girl will call for women to stick together and protect one another. Perhaps it will help the world feel a little more united. And this is where the personal and the political tie back together. I've noticed that lately many women are sharing the mantra "decenter men" online, and I could make a whole video on that. But at face value, that sounds pretty good, right? Encouraging young girls to focus on themselves is a great message. Now, let me get personal again. If I could go back to secondary school, I wouldn't have dated at all. I struggled a lot, both with making friends and maintaining friendships. And I thought getting a boyfriend would be the solution to feeling less alone, and it wasn't. It just caused further stress and turmoil for my young, undeveloped, and undiagnosed neurodivergent brain.
I cannot say this enough, but teach girls from a young age that male attention is worthless. If there is one thing that I could go back and change from my teen years and my first bit of college, is how much I wanted a boyfriend. While yes, I do have a boyfriend now and he's wonderful and I love him very, very much, I first had to let go of that. I had to let go of that yearning for a relationship. I had to stop literally chasing these men. Now that I think about it, it was so embarrassing. They didn't like me because I'm me, or because of my interests, or because of my hobbies, or because of who I am. They were more interested in what they can get out of me, if you know what I mean. And unless a man that you're with is adding something to your life, you're better off being on your own. Just have fun, live your life when you're in high school and college, and don't worry about being in a relationship. If that's what you want, it'll come along. Again, dating that young is just not worth it.
Bars. I think she hit the nail on the head. And this is coming from a certified lover girl. But there is a danger in tying up all of your self-worth into your romantic life. I've discussed this in my video on amatonormativity, a term coined by Elizabeth Brake, and it's the widespread assumption that everyone is better off in an exclusive, romantic, long-term, coupled relationship. This concept is incredibly helpful in understanding aromantic people and how to make society a more accepting place for people on the ace-aro spectrum. As for this video here, I want to apply it to the women/girls who like boys/men, because I believe that they are the people who can really benefit from embracing the girl mentality and who are most vulnerable to what happens when you don't unify with other women.
One thing about girls, they're not the ones ended up with the emotionally unavailable men. And here's why. A girl's girl is a girl's girl to herself, first and foremost. And only in your pick-me era can you make it make sense to waste your time trying to get through to a man who is emotionally underdeveloped and potentially stunted. Like, his needs far exceed your expertise, babe. But in your pick-me era, this makes all the sense in the world. Because the bigger the chase, the bigger the reward. And the thought of getting through to somebody who is otherwise unbreakable is enough to make you make really dumb decisions. However, I would never say this if I hadn't been through it, so I can't judge.
What I'm about to say, I am saying without judgment. Pinky promise. If your primary motivation is to get the guy, you treat girlhood/womanhood as the survival of the fittest. That behavior makes you less likely to have healthy friendships, especially with other women.
You are not a girl's girl if you looked at a happy couple and you asked, why did he choose her? Like, she's not even that pretty. Why didn't he pick me? I'm so much more prettier than her. You're not a girl's girl if you ever told a girl that she was flat. I will truly never understand this comment coming from a girl, reinforcing the idea that a woman's worth is based on how she looks to men, tied down to the shackles of male validation and male attention. Please break free.
So yeah, just some advice from Aunt Tara Mooney. If you're encountering this, you know, you're trying to be compassionate and think, oh, well, they're doing it because they're insecure and, you know, blah, 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 blah. Please don't think that you have to be a punching bag for someone else's character arc. Anyone who can speak to a friend like that is not able to have genuine friendship until they work through that animosity they have towards other women. And while I still stand by what I said about humanizing other women, you know, to the women who do this, you can show them compassion, but you are not obliged to give them access to you. You don't owe them friendship. They are not entitled to you. And I know some of you are probably going to react by saying, listen, I want friends. I have a boyfriend and I tell him all the time about how I want my girls, but I just don't have them. They just don't want to be my friend. I'll get there in the next chapter because trust me, I feel you. I am a loud and proud girl's girl, and I always will be. The experience of being loved and truly seen by other women is unmatched, and has even set the standards I keep for all my relationships. If a potential partner can't make me feel as appreciated and understood as my girlfriends do, then I simply don't need that energy in my life. If you're fortunate enough to find affirming people, you're less likely to settle for a subpar romantic partner. It's not just about friendships, it's also about how you were treated by your family growing up. But the thing that came across my mind when reading all this is how not having a support network makes a person so much more vulnerable to falling into a toxic or abusive relationship. I forgot to mention this, but I do think it's very important. This competitiveness also hurts our romantic relationships. Retroactive jealousy is a thing. People of all genders experience it. But what I will say is that it is so common to see women compare themselves to their boyfriend's ex. You know, what's my boyfriend's type? All this malarkey. And I do think that comes from a scarcity mindset, this sort of competitive mindset that we're all put in as women because of beauty expectations and the idea that, well, if his ex is better looking than me, that weakens the foundations of our relationship. And that's why it's so common, like women comparing themselves to their boyfriend's ex and having to like make her this kind of imaginary enemy and writing fanfics. I'm not judging, like I've been there, but it's not healthy, and it's not healthy for the current relationship you're in. So yeah, comparing yourself to the ex or the new girlfriend, that is all a byproduct of women constantly feeling like they're having to compete with each other. And I know that the pick-me girl has been discussed to death, but I would argue that this definition of the girl's girl is proactive. Unlike calling girls pick-me's and N-logs, be a girl's girl is saying, here's something to aspire to. Now, that's assuming you define a girl's girl in the way I have here, rather than a definition by negation, which many people do now. But wait a minute. Girls look out for all women regardless of relationship, and it is such an incredible movement to be a part of. The unwritten rule of having each other's backs as women in today's scary world is so reassuring and lovely. A girl's girl is that woman who lives to support other women, to encourage them and to celebrate their successes. She feels no jealousy or competition, but genuine joy at the achievement achievements of her friends, or even women she doesn't know personally. This type of solidarity is also reflected in popular culture, where examples like Spice Girls or close friendship groups and series like The Bold Type remind us that connections between women can be a source of strength and unconditional love. That's lovely, isn't it? It's a crock of shit! Now I'm gonna argue with myself. Nothing new to see here. Except the girlfriend gaze. Sadly, it is not referring to when lesbians stare at each other longingly. The homophobic dog, Whitney Houston, would be relieved. Aww. She's my favourite homophobe. Anywho, what I'm about to describe can be worded according to your preference. Pick your flavour. The girlfriend gaze was coined by Alison Winch, a form of woman-to-woman surveillance which is framed in friendly, warm tones, but which is critical of behaviours that contravene how a woman/girl should behave according to this form of social contract. It's a monitoring gaze that compels you to reproduce femininity in certain kinds of ways, or bear the consequences. For example, the archetypes of girls tend to be heterosexual and conventionally very attractive, and yet not interested in male attention. Yes, precisely. I've noticed that when some people describe a girl's girl, they'll add caveats like, you don't have to like girly things, and you don't have to have lots of girlfriends. In theory, but in practice, you kind of do in order to be accepted into the girls' girl club. It's not about having lots of girlfriends, but any woman with no long-term friends is a red flag and she should be avoided at all costs, otherwise she'll stab you in the back. It's not about being into makeup and clothes, but a true girls' girl would share where her makeup and clothes are from. What if you don't have this information to offer up? What's your way in? So much of the girls' girl rhetoric revolves around aesthetics that any girl who isn't into those things is ruled out. There's a lot of mention about telling a girl if her haircut looks bad or her outfit, sharing beauty tips, but also to not be male-centered. And while I love me some skincare, the highlight of my week is putting on my eye gloop. This isn't all womanhood is. What about the women who want to be girls but are body neutral? The ones who don't shave? The ones who choose to not wear makeup for political reasons? So how can I blame this on capitalism? Socialism is when no labubu. Oh, let me ask you a quick favour. I'm actually breaking the law right now, so don't tell anyone. Keep this conversation between you and I. I'm about to criticise aspects of late-stage capitalism, but I own an iPhone. I am a YouTuber. When I got my first YouTube paycheck, I bought myself a Furby off of eBay. Therefore, I'm a hypocrite, and any arguments even mildly critiquing capitalism and consumerism are void. Anyways, here's the link to my merch. The first drop being a Tu Quoque slogan tee. Now, as I previously mentioned, I do have sympathy for the fact that feminine interests have historically been belittled. I understand that the loud and proud embrace of girly things is a reaction to that. But I've gotta say, being a girl's girl does more for consumerism than feminism.
If you gatekeep your clothes that's literally found on Shein, you're not a fucking girl's girl.
You're not a girl's girl if you gatekeep literally everything.
If a girl compliments your outfit and you instantly tell her where you bought it, how much it was, what discount code you used, girl's girl.
Do not gatekeep.
Gatekeeping.
They put so much focus on gatekeeping. It's like it's an epidemic. I know I'm 30 now, so perhaps I'm just out of the loop on what's important to young girls these days. But I don't remember this being my main issue with other girls. Is it really affecting young women's lives this much? You'd think it is, given how much they talk about it in these videos. I'm being hyperbolic, but I have to say, in my months of research, trawling through all the web articles on how to be a girl's girl, I've seen so much mention of gatekeeping, but I can only recall one instance where they mentioned slut-shaming. And that article I'm referring to also directs to never disrespect a woman's agency. Another one I don't see very often in all this discourse. Foreshadowing. You can focus on more than one thing at once, but you don't.
A girl just asked me where my top was from, so I said, Amazon. Do you want me to text you the link? Stood there, texted her the link. That's how easy it is to be a girl's girl.
It's that easy. Now, what happens if you fail?
I had one of the most unhinged interactions with a girl that I've had in a long time today. And it's just so weird to me because I think I forget that not every girl is a girl's girl, because I'm definitely a girl's girl. All my friends are girls. And so it's weird to me when I meet a girl that's not. So I was at the Silver Lake Flea Market today, For the past few months, I have been looking for very specifically vintage cowboy boots with a heel on. And I saw this girl today and she was wearing this killer outfit, super cute little crop with these like baggy jeans. And then she had her pants tucked into the coolest rhinestone cowboy boots. So I went up to her and I was like, girl, your fit is fitting. You look amazing. I've been looking for boots just like that. Where did you get them? And what brand are they? She was like with her, I guess, boyfriend or something. And she's like, my cowboy boots? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, these boots? And in my brain, I'm thinking, no, bitch, the boots on your hands. But, you know, I want to find out where these boots are from. So I'm like, yeah, the ones you're wearing. And she was like, oh, yeah, they're cool, right? And I was like, yeah, they're amazing. Like, I've been looking for boots like that forever. And she's like, yeah, see, the thing about these boots, can't really say. And I was like, you can't really say what? She's like, yeah, I can't say where I got them. I was like, oh, you don't remember? And she's like, no, I know where I got them. No, like, I know where I got them. Okay, so are your boots in the witness protection program? Like, what's the deal? And she's like, yeah, it's just, you know, I've told people before where I've gotten things because, you know, like, people always ask me because of my style. And I really just hate when I see other people in LA with the same things as me. Oh, so you want to gatekeep the cowboy boots? And she was like, I just, you know, I don't want other people to have the same boots as me. And I was like, well, statistically speaking, unless those are one of one, there are people out there that have the same boots as you. Just don't know about that. And she was like, yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay. So then I'm like, all right, cool, no worries. And I took my phone out because I was like, I'm just going to take a photo of them and reverse Google image them when she walks away.
Oh boy. What we have here is a classic example of a TikTok drama, where it's quite likely that it's not even real and it's just for marketing, given that the boots ended up being from Urban Outfitters. Regardless, it has created discourse. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that this situation is real. I think it has opened up very interesting conversations about what makes a girl's girl, and being allies in helping other women buy things is considered more important than respecting their boundaries. I understand how it may not seem that deep. You know, why not just tell her where they're from? And I get how in the story she comes off as a bit stuck up or standoffish. You know, someone is complimenting you, share the joy. You know, it would have made the interaction smoother and more amicable, but also she shouldn't have to. She is allowed to say no. That is her prerogative. From the way she describes it, it sounds like she was trying to force a conversation and carry on a conversation that the person wasn't really interested in being in. So, and listen, when I get into the nitty-gritty of it, I'm not trying to say that this woman is like a bad egg. I'm not trying to say she violated this lady. I do think taking a photo of her without her consent isn't great, but I'm about to get into a much broader point about boundaries and how that works between women and the expectation of how women should behave to each other.
First of all, she acted like I was attacking her. I was like, oh, hey girl. And she was like, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to like startle you. And she was like, oh, it's fine.
Some people are just jumpy and they find talking to strangers difficult. I'm one of those people. Sue me. Because it all comes under the performance of it all, the pageantry. I think it highlights how maybe we need to reassess what our priorities are in deciding what makes someone a girl's girl. And the creator then made a follow-up video explaining why she thinks gatekeeping is so harmful.
Let's talk about why gatekeeping is actually whack as hell and is a problem. Thank you to the sweet baby angels that came up to me today and were like, oh my God, are you cat with the boots? These sweet girls mentioned to me that they had a friend who was like a prolific gatekeeper in their friend group, and she just didn't understand why gatekeeping was a problem. And they were like, how can we kind of explain this to her? Because they had apparently shown her my video and she still was not convinced.
You mean she wasn't convinced by your video naming and shaming a girl and sharing her location? Shock.
Gatekeeping at its core stems from the desire to be perceived as superior within social constructs. Because when you're thinking like, oh, I don't want anyone else to have what I have, that is rooted in a set of insecurity that if someone has the same thing that you have, that makes what you have less important and therefore you less important, which is just not true. Gatekeeping creates this idea of insiders and outsiders, right? Like the people that are gatekeepers are the insiders because they're the ones that have the gate shut. Outsiders are outside the gate, which causes alienation, which is just not the vibe of being a girl's girl. I know that there are people on here that were like, that's not the definition of being a girl's girl. I'm like,
on a serious note, I completely agree that there are merits to having a the more the merrier mindset. And I do agree that so much of gatekeeping is rooted in insecurity. You know, people do have individuality complexes. However, tying this all up into what makes a girl's girl and making that the fundamental parameter is bizarre. This is LA flavored feminism.
I miss when the term girl's girl was used for actual stuff that were important, like telling a woman that the guy she is starting to see has abuse allegations, or he has assault allegations, or helping someone when they're like alone at night, or you know what I mean, protecting someone's drink so someone doesn't slip something into it, and not, oh, you know, she didn't tell me where her boots were from. Girl's girl is one of those terms that people now just use as a cover when they want to call another woman bitchy.
And then when I see comments saying that gatekeeping is pro-capitalism, that's when I have to take a long, hard look into the void.
No is still a complete sentence, even when it's from girl to girl. Y'all can understand that when it comes to men. Y'all will talk about how I don't owe you a smile, I don't owe you da-da-da. But as soon as you ask a woman another question and she says no, it's, well, you're not a girl's girl. The whole woman who's not sharing her boots thing, now all the women are like, oh, she's not a girl's girl. And y'all are the girls' girls. But it's, okay, let's all buy these boots, go to that market where she is and just shove it in her face. That's being a girl's girl? Funny. That doesn't sound very girl's girl. I should be able to tell you no. And it just be like, okay, I shouldn't have to over-explain myself to you to why I said no.
Yes, I don't know why the teddy bear is strapped into a seat considering it doesn't have organs, but yes, it isn't entitled to ask someone where they got their boots from, but it is entitled to not take no for an answer and to use mob mentality to punish a random person for not catering to your wants. And that brings me on to my next point. The girlfriend gaze is highly punitive. The girl's girl does nothing to unpack the pressures to perform as a woman. You're expected to be warm, open, and share promo codes. Teddy Bear Mother has a point. There are some women who seem to think that consent and boundaries don't apply to them when it comes to other women. And I know the boots saga isn't that deep, like consent and boundaries are big words. So I'm not trying to condemn that lady that hard. But yeah, personally, in my time, I've observed some entitlement. I'm not saying it's anywhere near the same level as men, because random men in public expect your time and your friendliness, but I have encountered women who don't respect boundaries when it comes to touch or asking personal questions, and then they act aggrieved when you say no, like you owe them openness because of the sisterhood.
If you're a woman that encounters another woman who's reserved or not personable with you or doesn't do the whole, yes girl, oh my god, nice to meet you, oh this is from, oh you want to borrow my lip gloss here girl, of course, whole performance, and your first thoughts are that she's not a girl's girl or she thinks she's all that or she's rude or whatever, just remember how rare it is to see women be firm with their boundaries or even be comfortable with being firm with their boundaries, and how rare it is to see women not feel like they have to perform for people to be seen as a good person or to be likable or to be accepted. And when you remember that, check your entitled thoughts of vilifying that woman for not being personable with you, because it's giving the men that ask you to smile or give you their number when you're out in the streets.
It is a performance. Performed empathy. Performed caretaking. It's prioritizing niceness over actual kindness. It's all about appearance over substance. Like how having lots of girlfriends means you're more likely to be a girl's girl, whereas if you don't, that's a major red flag. Beware of the girl with no friends. No long-term friends even. Now, who might be more likely to struggle to maintain friendships and perform a bubbly persona? Through this policing of women's behaviour, all these women do is further entrap women into strict and violent gender binaries that state that women are, and must always be, morally good, polite, accommodating and agreeable. If they deviate from that norm, they will be punished. If you're neurodivergent, and I say that rather than pinpointing to one type of neurodivergence, because so many of them create social differences and communication differences. But yeah, If you are also neurodivergent, you may have also experienced the difficulty in maintaining friendships. This goes for everyone. Friendship is hard. You know, I argued in my previous chapter about the importance of building community outside of your romantic relationships, so you're not solely reliant on a single person. But oh boy, is that easier said than done. There are many women who yearn for connection with other women. So yeah, it's almost like it's a canon event for neurodivergent women to have been kicked out of a friendship group at one point, if they ever were in a friendship group. And this is why I side-eye anyone who posts those videos, which is like, just two girls who survived the girl with the victim mentality. And they have thousands of likes, and I just think, you do realise you don't look like the good guys in this. Girl friendship places women's friendship at the core of feminine identities. The fantasy of having a big, harmonious group of girlfriends is sold on TV shows like Sex and the City and The Bold Type. Yeah, it looks lovely. But if you don't find that, you feel like you're failing at girlhood. But hey, maybe being a girl's girl is overrated. Seems like a lot of faff. You know, I've seen a lot about how male-centered women ruin the vibe of girly functions. And yeah, there's truth in that. You don't need to bring your boyfriend to everything. Don't just talk about guys and nothing else. Don't, without warning, ditch your friend on a night out so she's got to travel home alone. However, I have seen this naive expectation that female friendship will just fulfill every one of your needs. And I hate to break it to you, but straight women exist and they like men, so they might want to be pursued by men. Crazy, I know. So when I see videos of women talking about how they're the only friend in their group who doesn't get approached by a guy on a night out, you know, and then there'll be comments saying, you know, don't live for validation, just enjoy the night with your friends. But also, they're human. I find the mantra of, you know, a girl's girl is never jealous so trite. We should acknowledge our envy. It's human. It's unhealthy to bury it. Not addressing it is what makes you act out. Me, because I can just admit that I'm jealous of a hot girl instead of coming up with the dumbest reason imaginable as to why I don't like her. Exactly. I want to suggest that the answer is not to put forward an idealistic understanding of female relationships. On the contrary, exploring the complexities of those relationships, including conflict, can be a means to strengthen feminist movements. Understanding and examining ugly feelings as potentially productive ways of relating can be a way of loosening the pervasive grip of a control society.
30 next year, and I'm thinking about all of the complications that come with being a woman and growing up from a girl to a woman, and also the element then as well of also being queer and disabled and all of the different layers that different people have with their intersectional identities. And you carry a lot of that into your adulthood, and of course sometimes that might spill into your relationships. Of course, that then might spill into your friendships. And I think women carry so much with us from our girlhood, that sometimes our relationships with other women might be a little bit more complicated because we've been pitted as enemies for so long. So I do think it is a little bit natural that we would carry over some of those complicated feelings into our friendships.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You said it perfectly. I feel like I've got nothing to contribute.
Because we're navigating so much complexity, surely we ought to allow some imperfection. I live in fear of not living up to what I'm pretty sure is a fallacy, that I'm somehow doing the sisterhood wrong by just being. More often than not, we hear about who is not a girl's girl, i.e. a definition by negation. Jordan, of Jordan Teresa, talks about this in her recent video on the Pick Me Girl, where she actually talks about my video. So now I'm talking about her video where she talks about my video. So it's like woman video essayist inception. Big brain stuff. Definition by negation is inherently exclusionary. It's a way to pathologize women's behavior and neatly reduce them into boxes. Girls versus mean girls or not girls. And I understand that no single word or phrase can ever truly capture the breadth of womanhood. Terms like girl dinner and microfeminism are intended to convey a shared understanding and reality of womanhood in a short, snappy form. And I think that's fine, but for more lower stakes things, you know, more trivial things like girl dinner, or, you know, like microfeminism when you default to a she, her when talking about a profession like doctor or something. I can't think of a profession. God, I'd be a terrible crowd member for an improv show, wouldn't I? However, the girl's girl is evoked in complicated situations to make them more easily digestible. You know, it's used when sister surveying situations where people don't know the ins and outs. Like when we're voyeurs to public breakups and divorces. You know, this isn't a pro-cheating channel, but for example, if you see a couple break up because of cheating and you call the other woman not a girl's girl, I think it's simultaneously so condemning and also very trivializing. It's writing off someone's entire character based on one situation in their life, which granted can be a big mistake, but it does not make up a whole person, while at the same time being very trivializing. So if you're talking about a marriage breaking down and then saying that someone is not a girl's girl, it's treating it like locker room gossip. But I'm sure that for most of us, if we went under the sister surveillance scanner and it merely detected our worst moments, we wouldn't qualify as girls either. The she's not a girl's girl insult is another complicated knot within girlhood that twists and tangles us together while also pulling us apart. No free promo. The stickiness with any social term that gains online notoriety is that its definition is totally arbitrary. I mean, the use of the noun girl isn't even straightforward. You know, as Shanspeare covered in their video on the politics of girlhood, they refer to how girl is used as an exclamation in African American English. And who exactly girl covers is up for debate. If you're going strictly by dictionary definition, you know, it's only young women, adolescents, children, child girls. You know what I mean? By that metric, the girl's girl would be a coming-of-age concept, exclusive to young women and under. You know, there's been debate for aeons about whether referring to women as girls is infantilizing. Now, there are many women who are reclaiming it, but only some get to. The girl's girl has become a shorthand for a kind of assumed sisterhood. But who does it include? Women with disposable income to buy and share the best beauty products? For me, it goes without saying that this includes trans women and girls. But there are cis women who want to gatekeep, the irony, girlhood from trans women. The vast majority of the girls girl rhetoric and discourse revolves around young women with feminine interests. Still adults, but mainly younger millennials and Gen Zs. But what about older women? Where do they stand in all this? Younger women and older women are often sparring with one another, and the ageism does go both ways. Does the girls girl include elderly women? Imagine saying that someone's grandma is not a girl's girl. And because of its exclusionary history, we are now seeing the girl's girl be defined cynically. Now, you can shout from the rooftops, that's not what a girl's girl is, it's simply looking out for other women, stop ruining it, blah, 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 blah. But says who? Who gets to make the call? So women who are skeptical of the girl's girl, it's because they've experienced self-identified girls who weren't very supportive, girls who would get bitter and envious if they got a compliment and they didn't, or the kind of friendship dynamics where they became disinterested in the friendship once the person had a glow up. Their words, not mine. And I'm in two minds about this. On the one hand, there are some people who reject the girl's girl because of internalized misogyny, and in a way that seems to be about a weird superiority complex.
Everyone's a girl's girl until a woman walks in with quiet confidence, a pure heart, and no need for a crowd or validation.
Huh? Like they create fanfics about how all the women around them are just envious. That I have less sympathy for. But I do have sympathy for people who are skeptical and suspicious of self-proclaimed girls because they see it as a kind of nice girl syndrome. So, you know, like nice guys. I'm a nice guy, but he's entitled. Like that, nice girls. And as I've been alluding to, the girl's girl can often be a wolf in sheep's clothing. And because it's performative in nature, it can be used deceptively, or it can be used by people who aren't intentionally duplicitous but just inconsistent and hypocritical. If you sign yourself up to the manual of girl code and the girls girl club, like, you are dooming yourself to fail, especially if you're on a show like Love Island where the whole point is to couple up with someone and poach partners from couples. So earlier I referenced the storyline with Amy Hart and Maura Higgins, and Maura was a controversial character. You know, she came in gunning for someone who was already coupled up, but then when she had a friend who expressed potential interest in a guy she was talking to, she evoked girl code.
Because I know I wouldn't have done it to her. I wouldn't do it to any of the girls.
Yeah, I know.
I wouldn't do it because I'm not a fucking bitch.
What upset me more than anything is that you said that I didn't have girl code. I've hurt someone else's feelings for regarding a girl's and not listening to girl code. Do you know what I mean? So you can't sit there and say it to me and make me feel like shit, and then
I think
beat me up all night because I feel like
what's
shit.
really, really annoying. They were not together. From what I saw.
But you and him are not together.
She can choose. She can pick and choose when to use girl code, because what she did to you after having that conversation with you and then trying to kiss Tommy, that was not cool. That was breaking girl code.
Let's not forget. I went, do you not feel like you should have pulled Molly aside? No, I don't. I went, are you sure? Definitely do not. No, I shouldn't have. But now it's in your favour. You want Elma to come and have a chat with you.
And then after that, the stuff with Amy happened. And you know, what Amy's talked about is the issue being that he hurt her very badly. Maura condemned it, but then went on to be with him. And after the fact, Amy Hart did interviews and she expressed how what really stung was that she felt Maura rewrote history. She moved the goalposts, were her exact words, saying, you know, we were never really that good friends anyway. So it was like an extra knife in the gut. So with that case study on the brain, anthropology, you are essentially shooting yourself in the foot when you agree to the terms of being a girl's girl. And those terms are an oversimplification of womanhood and relationship dynamics. And here's the thing, you could apply a similar argument to something broader, like an ideology like feminism, like, oh, so these people claim they're feminists, but they do X, Y, Z. And generally my response to that is feminism being practiced imperfectly doesn't completely denigrate it as an ideology. So why not apply that to the girl's girl? And here's why. The girl's girl does not have the same foundations as feminism, the widespread acknowledgement. The girl's girl is ultimately slang. Its informal nature is what makes it so susceptible to misuse, to it being changed and redefined. Therefore, I do think the suspicion around self-proclaimed girls is warranted. Actions speak louder than words. So the response that is often used in defense of the girl's girl, that's not what it was originally intended, doesn't really hold up, in my humble opinion. It's almost as if feminist terminology has trend cycles like fast fashion, especially online. Gender lingo like the pick-me and the girl's girl are micro-trends with such a short life cycle. And therein lies one of the many pitfalls of digital feminism. Bloomin' heck, I am boiling. But we're almost done here, so the $1 million question, the girl's girl. Is it feminism? Oh god, the doggies are barking, one sec. Short answer, nah. I think we have moved beyond the dictionary definition of simply wanting equality of the sexes or whatever it is. Just merely mentioning women, you know, talking about women and, you know, shouting, support women are, you know, those are girl boss platitudes. If we accepted that definition, then Katy Perry's music video Woman's World would be feminist, despite it being produced by an alleged sex criminal. And I am by no means the first person to make this point. Essentially, following girl code, being a girl's girl, doesn't do much for the liberation of women and accessing more rights. And listen, I'm not trying to say I'm like all morally superior. I'm no activist. I mean, I work for Google. Here's the thing. It's not even clear that everyone involved identifies as a feminist. And in fact, you don't need to identify as a feminist to be a girl's girl. So let me circle all the way back to the beginning where I argue that I prefer this girl's girl as opposed to the traditional this girl's girl singular. The former implies looking out for girls as a whole, you know, not just the ones in your daily life, the same class bracket, etc, etc. Whereas the latter is individualistic. It's micro. Its main focus is on individual actions as opposed to systemic. You can be a girl's girl and vote for Trump. That girl's girl in the bathroom might give you a tampon, she might tell you where her boots are from, but then vote against your bodily autonomy. So in light of all of that, I think it might be time to retire the term. It seems to have lost all meaning. Like, what do you mean Kylie Jenner's a girl's girl because she's sharing her cosmetic surgeon? Huh? Is this what hell is? And I get that it's frustrating when the internet ruins a fun phrase. You know, I love me some alliteration. But as my colleague Jordan Teresa said, the internet is where nuance goes to die. And as for the girl's girl, its trend cycle has expired. Wow, what a longie. This video took a long time to script, produce, and edit. I mean, just ask the cow. We're really happy with how it turned out. I wanted this video to be a hybrid of different video styles, you know, commentary, video essay, and a bit of media criticism. But that's been challenging for the cow and I. In addition to blood, sweat, and tears, I combat this by finding inspiration from my fellow creators. And that's why it's so important for me to diversify what I watch and consume all kinds of content. Take, for example, media criticism. You know, I've dabbled in it a couple of times on this channel, but it isn't my bread and butter. But there are creators who have mastered it as an art form. When writing this script, I wanted to link examples of media to the polarization around the term girls girl. I found Broey Deschanel's video, Pretty Babies, The Problem with Girlhood in Film, invaluable in my research. She discusses the moral panic over the 2020 Netflix film Cuties and the 1978 film Pretty Baby, in order to explore the debate around whether depiction equals endorsement, how an attempt to portray the exploitation of young girls can still receive so much polarization, simultaneously being celebrated and maligned. But don't get it twisted, a video doesn't have to be about girlhood to pique my interest. I'm inspired by creators like Big Joel, Princess Weeks, Tom Nicholas, Mooncat, just to name some. And something that all these creators have in common is that they are on Nebula, a video on demand streaming platform built by and owned by creators. I am thrilled to announce that the cow and I have joined the ranks of some of our favourite creators, and we now have exclusive content over on Nebula. You'll also receive our videos early and get to watch them ad-free. If you'd like to come over and support us and our fellow creators, click the link below or scan the QR code on screen to get 40% off of Nebula. It's just $36 a year or $3 a month. They also offer lifetime memberships, so you pay the $300 once upfront and then you can reap the benefits of Nebula for as long as it exists. There's already so much innovative content on there, but there's even more to come. I am so excited for the release of the original film The Dinner Plan. It's by Patrick Willems and it's coming out soon, and it's got Dylan from Severance. Like, are you kidding me? And there is so much phenomenal content that you'll only find on Nebula, like Tom Nicholas's documentary Boomers, where he gets up to all sorts of antics, like traveling to the US to interview boomers and young folk alike. There's also Abolish Everything, which is like a panel debate comedy show where a creator goes up and they roast a pet peeve of theirs and argue that it should be banned from society. And then there's a panel of improvisers called the Political Establishment. You know, I attend debates in real life. I love watching debates. I'm too scared to go up and do them, but maybe I should. Maybe I should be on Abolish Everything. But yeah, this is such a fun and original spin on the traditional debate format. Funnily enough, my friend and colleague Foreign Man in a Foreign Land is on there. Go watch, it's such a hoot. You know, if you like to watch something with your meals, like a medieval monarch, the Nebula catalogue will keep you both fed and entertained for aeons. If you're already a Nebula supporter, but if you want to share the fruits of knowledge from the Nebula tree, you get to share one guest pass per month for a loved one, and they get free access for a whole week. You could send them over to watch my stuff, just saying. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all the support. Hopefully I'll see you over there. But yeah, and last but not least, I just want to thank my patrons. They got to see an earlier draft and give me feedback, so that was really cool. So if you're interested in that, go on over there. Big love to them. They're great. They're a lovely little community. I would be remiss if I didn't include a subscription pet shout out. If you hear background noise, Siggy has the zoomies. Try to ignore her. So for this video, we have got a hairless or werewolf guinea pig named Moose. So Moose is needy, stubborn, sweet, attention-seeking, knows when I'm upset. He likes to cuddle me when I cry. Oh my god. And then ignore me when I'm not having an anxiety attack. Screams at me when I sleep in and miss their veggie time. He's on a schedule and he likes sticking to it. Same here, Moose. Same here. Make sure to give Moose a round of applause. So yeah, that's it. I've been gone a while. I'm back. I don't know when I'll next be back. Hopefully I won't disappear for as long. Sorry about that. Anyway, lots of love. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.